Market recap. Look at that magic number over 700, issue number 704. That's going to be for Wednesday, July the 1st. Let's go ahead and get to the disclaimer. We got a lot of interesting things planned for you. Yes, I have skin in the game. I trade my own personal account. Sardine, tuna, billfish trades are for educational purposes only. I'm not a futures broker and do not manage any accounts. It's my intent to show where trades may occur. What you do is up to you. You can follow my levels, ideas to profit or loss. You determine trade size, when, where, how you trade. CFD futures is not for everyone. It's a volatile, complex, and a risky business. Before you invest, know how much you can afford to lose. Yeah, well, we had a 4-point loss, so that was quick right out of the gate. Had you let it hang on about another 4 points, about an 8-handle stop, that's really not what you would have wanted done yesterday. But we did take a 4-handle loss. You're looking at minus 200 on a 1 lot and minus 600 on a 3. Just goes to show not every day is going to be perfect. One day giveth, the other day taketh away. And I made an indication about the algos. Yes, you might have not even taken this trade. So close to the opening bell that the price was on a tear. And that's something you might want to look at. Your stop, I always forget the R there. Your stop was taken just as you bracketed the trade with a 4-point stop. So yeah, if you did an automatic stop on the entry, you just got it ripped right out. The algos had no mercy whatsoever. It was quite interesting. The day before, what's this telling you? This is very important, actually. The Dow futures, and we'll say that in jest, which is actually the Wyckoff wave. They were actually on a tear downwards. S&P was moving up and then pulled back a little bit right above the test of previous day's high. That's all set up for a beautiful day. Yeah, we'll give it out. It was S2L day, and I'm still working on how we're going to play that game out, YouTube, but we'll go for it. That's 2L day. You can easily see once the low was found, there was nothing but looking up. It was a Monday. News wasn't that bad. And the Dow was determined, the NASDAQ was determined to even put even more highs on. You can easily see the volume push, accumulation volume from previous range. Okay, pulled back, tested that low. If you didn't get on there, then obviously you could have gotten on there. Definitely time with the Wyckoff wave. It was just a beautiful thing. A little bit of a wet beak, as WB might call it. Here's the situation, what you want to look at right there. Okay, that is a tad oversold. Volume comes in. That's when you'd want to get on. Or that old saying, low, high, higher, low, higher, high, higher, low. Okay? All the ducks were definitely lined up in a row for you. You can see volume starting to increase. Test the previous high, pull back, and then volume starts moving up as prices are moving up, effort versus result. And for whatever reason, they really climaxed there at the end. Potential selling climax. Buying climax. Sometimes I get those mixed up. Preliminary support. Preliminary supply. And then a potential buying climax. It's all a potential. Keep that in mind. But the main thing is keep in mind how that day ended. Okay. Made a few changes, a few improvements, things that I've been planning on doing. You can easily see the levels here. I won't wear you out on that. And we'll go ahead and open this up so you can see it. On the side, if you do want to listen to the Emini Market Recap, we're doing something on SoundCloud. All right, as you can see, the news. NASDAQ sets new record highs. But the Dow ends the day in the red. Not what you want to see. While the NASDAQ S&P moved noticeably higher over the course of the trading session on Wednesday, the Dow showed a lack of direction before closing in negative territory. The advance of the day lifted the tech-heavy NASDAQ to a new record closing high. And man, I could see supply coming in Netflix, but they were pretty much dogging Google, if I remember correctly. And of course, better than your physical quarter results. Institute Supply Managed Reach report said unexpectedly that we had a major push in manufacturing. Take it for what it is. We try to get this updated every day. Sometimes the data just kind of stops on us. And the chat, one of the traders, and we did take his name out, he's a subscriber. He says, Wyckoff Trader, thanks for the AM turn. Good way to start today. And I appreciate that. You think he is running out of steam here? And basically I said, yeah. That 3110 seems to be holding for now. To my eye, that's really where the supply was coming in at. Currently, we pushed down. We put in a high, like I said, up the up thrust. We'll talk about that on the audio. But about 350, we came up to 3118, but then we quickly lost that, and that would make that like a potential terminal up thrust, but not terminal would be really the right word to use. Globex tested 3095 and now pushed up to about 3111. It's kind of what we said now, wasn't it? Pushed back down 3108, and like I said, it could take it out over on Globex. Wyckoff never had to worry about Globex. And like I said, except in the potential terminal up thrust, then 3110 seems to be holding. And the thing to look at really was Wyckoff in the 1930s. It's how he looked at the market as a potential area distribution, and the thing was opposite the market. That was one of the things that kind of clued me. Previous close at the high was in a very tight, narrow range, about a 16-handle range. That's what Wyckoff would say is potential distribution. If you were using a point and figure chart, you know that because you're rocking that point and figure chart, and that's where making the charts by hand from the old timer Barker Lounger boy days. It really gave them an edge because it gave them the intuition and the intuitive feel of what was going on in the market. And today, all we do is we look at a chart. We say, "Oh, well, that's what do they call it? Trading range." I forgot the word. They chop. Yeah, they call it chop. Wyckoff called that a resting spell. Anyway, and then we went up a little bit higher, and then that decreased down a little bit more as far as the tight distribution range. And then, of course, the rally 3113 volume wasn't increasing. That was one of the things we looked at. Of course, it pulled back to the half back or the L back. Guess I'll have to change that. And it traded in a tighter range, 12. That was another concern that kind of gave me the tip off that, this could be potential distribution. Then it pushed to get short at the 3118. And that's when you really want to get out of that trade, but you got to look at what's really going on in the bigger picture. So that's the tune in the billfish traders. If they were building a line of supply, where they wanted to build a bigger position, not that they did. That's really what we're looking at. Telltale signs. Effort versus result was the tail. Sure, we were higher than yesterday, but trading just around that volume spike. And that's only natural. We'll have to see what price is going to do with that. I believe I made that a link. Yeah, I did. Let's go ahead and just kick off the volume the audio, and we're going to let that play through.
Easy to see as we were coming in,
1112 also minus 900 ticks. You can see it was coming in. The train was coming into the station. Okay. 1126, we got minus 771. 11.
And these are the ticks.
Time marker 1127. We're looking at 10,000 or 1019 or 1019 with the negative ticks. Fair value really wasn't responding as much, but the good tail there was 1128, 1129. It popped up half, at least negative ticks to minus 500, minus 500. Popped down a little bit to minus 200. And then from that standpoint, from 1130, you can actually see it was off to the races. So from a little micro standpoint, you could argue the fact from a tick standpoint, preliminary support came in about 1122. Selling climax with 1127. Automatic rally came in at about 1128. And then the secondary test came in at 1122. And that's pretty much where we found the low. And, of course, Berkshire Hathaway did the same thing. Something I've been looking to do for quite a while. We'll see how it works out. Looking at the Wyckoff wave, you should see a movement up. And then, as I said on the video, Wyckoff would never take the first movement. Now, back then, the market started at 10 o'clock. Take it for what it's worth. This would have been the opening balance, as you see, coming up to about the 340 mark. And then we get a strong push down. We take out the opening print. We take out the first minute low, take out the close from the previous day. And what you want to think about that is, if you recall the previous day, price was really aggressive, pushing up through that last couple of minutes. Kind of gives you a little suspect to what's going on, why they was able to give it up so quickly, especially on a lot of volume. As you can see, that very first volume was actually quite high. And then we pull back, okay, and then we rally back. And that's really what you're looking for. It's potentially around the half back or coming close to where that opening print was. And that's the first takeaway. Now, sure, you can draw your trend line. Like I said, I used to just use my eye. And that's pretty much telling you know what, we're going to have a down day. And then from that, say, 1010 marker, you can easily see a downtrend line. It's moving, if you draw your line, pretty much all the way through, say, 1150. And for the most part, it's very constrained trend line. I'm drawing trend lines now, of course. And I'll include those in the video, in the PDF also. From, say, 1050, 11, of course, all the way to about 1120, you can see a potential resting area around the daily pivot. And then for the most part, the down move is coming to its end, coming to its fruition. And we'll talk about that also in the Berkshire Hathaway, where you can actually see that volume spike. And if you have the benefit of looking at other groups, fortunately, the video died on me because I actually hit a column that's supposed to display a chart, a point and figure chart. I never updated the point and figure chart, so we'll resolve that. But you can easily see about 1040, that supply line is for the most part been devastated, and it comes out of the supply line, and you can only anticipate once again a move to that half back of that previous down move. You can talk about the minutes, but you can, for the most part, see in your mind it's taking it longer to go down. And ideally, you can easily see that the floor trader pivot, somewhat of a motivating factor for the bid coming into the market. I'll go ahead and take a picture so we can include that in the opening print. AM turn, PDF. All right. Okay, we're at the E-mini, and fortunately, a lot of the lines actually coincide with the arrows and what we drew. With the E-mini, you can see just a little bit of a difference. The area distribution isn't that strong, but that's okay. You still see the same arrows, and that's the main takeaway. Now, if we add in the clock, we're going to see a couple of things. We're going to see the spill up, which I don't think anyone could argue that that was not a spill up. Chances are if you have a spill up, then we're looking for an AM low. Now, the spill up, how can I say this? The selling pressure was so strong, it pushed the price down a lot lower than what they anticipated. And, well, what would be ideal anticipated for us as a trader? So we get that lower low. That pretty much takes out the AM low from that standpoint. There's some equidistance concepts that WB used, which I will not talk about. He loved to keep that under his vest, and only until I figured it out did WB give it up. But there is some equidistancing going on here with the AM low, and there's a way you could have determined when you would have gotten that AM low. That's okay, but it's there. So the S3L day is not going to be as clear-cut an idea because he called it a wild card day, buckwheat smile day, trading range day, and no disregard to buckwheat, but I guess WB would have to get spanked for using that verbiage. But he was referring to buckwheat's teeth, how it would resemble a square wave had you traded within a trading range. And for the most part, that's really what we got. And, to my eye, I'm still going to say it was potential distribution. Right now, go back to straight in 3,100. They'll banty around that for a while till something closes on the Asian market or the Europeans open up, but who knows? Okay, ideal tomorrow would be the S, or today as you're listening to this, or whenever you're listening to it, would be the S4H day. The bigger picture, we still closed above the opening, so not bad. So that's why the AM low came in at 1050. Of course, the mid AM high, you've only got that hour. And you can argue that it came in at about 10:10. That's possible. It doesn't really make that difference. Even if it came in at the 10:10, which you probably did. I just didn't see it when I clicked my mouse button, but that's still okay. You can see that they checked it once again, and we put in a low because we were still in that downward movement. You got to look at the top chart, which is the Wyckoff wave. We were still in that downward movement, but we really started checking it about 1050, like we said, which actually was where the AM low came in at. Then the lunch high, the lunch low was just a tad lower than the AM high, and it's just kind of being a square wave. Mid AM high, then they pull back, and then of course, if you're using the clock to get out, then you would have gotten out at the mid AM high. And that's provided had you gotten in at the mid AM low. Had you wanted to have bullish tendencies, which not would have been the best place to be in this particular day. But you take it how you want to look at it. And of course, the algos, you got to think about something. We have a potential range of distribution, like I talked about in chat, and I called it, the 3110 level. And once they're through distributing out of that range, and you can at least see that's what was going on from that, say 1240 to the lunch low at 110. And then the mid AM high at 210. Once again, there's a base of potential distribution. It's only customary for them to now get out from under all of their inventory that they initially had and then rally it back up and have a terminal upthrust. And that's really what you want to look at. Now, it's not as terminal as you might want it to be. You're really not going to get that terminality unless it's a finality of the high or some news, like we got jacked up on the first of the year, February-ish or so. But still, it would be like an intraday terminal up thrust. We'll keep it in that perspective because we're now bidding price up. And 3116, that would have been that next level where you would have seen a lot of supply coming in. And, of course, algos took it to 3118. And at the end of the day, they did not hesitate to get out of that trade. Once again, you got to ask yourself, what did they do at the beginning of the market once we reached those highs, and what did they do at the end? So once you kind of reel them in, you get the young bulls to get in, and of course they're bidding the market up too. But once you get the buyers coming in, what do you do at the beginning and the end of the day? Well, you sell it to them. You sell them their inventory, and if they did, then that's when the professionals would have gotten short on that rally up. And that's kind of what you want to look at. And ideal, the volume is going to be a little bit challenging because you're looking at the last 60 minutes, 40 minutes of the day, and there's going to be a lot of cross currents going on there. So that's really how you want to cash. You got to keep in mind how that last couple of 10 minutes traded from Monday's close. Somewhat nonsense is what it was. And from that standpoint, the Globex took it down lower, if you recall. I believe even on Globex, we took it down the lowest before we found that bid. At about, 7:45, just before the Parker Lounger Bowl. That's for the composite men, or the men in the know, boys that fly in on the helicopters, land on the heated pads, starting about 8 o'clock. They had a low of 30.62, and then they were bidding the price back up. That's really what you want to look at, which was actually testing the low around that lunchtime slog of the previous day. And we didn't quite get down to the 30.58, but that was definitely a test on what had happened the previous day. That's the real takeaway. We want to look at that. Now, the opening balance was to the buying pressure, but that was quickly checked as selling pressure came in and checked that opening rise, pushed back down below the low of the previous print, or the opening print. And I'll draw a little arrow there, about 10 o'clock-ish or so. And then was the news good or bad, Wyckoff? I don't really know. I didn't really pay attention to the news per se. We just look at it as a catalyst potential timing event. What you want to take away is, and like I said, I'll indicate the arrows here, as the cash was finding a new high for the day. Major indexes, which are reflected in the Dow or the Dow futures, which are reflected in the Wyckoff wave, it was only finding a, now, excuse me, excuse me. There's two things to consider here. The Wyckoff used minor, or major and minor. Now with the first opening run, or the opening balance, in Wyckoff's day, the market opened up at 10 o'clock, so it was a little bit different. And they didn't have Globex. And in a way, I would love not to have Globex, but I would also love to be trading in fractions. Don't get me started. So, and yeah, algos wouldn't be a part of that. We had fractions now, would they? They couldn't really play in that game. It's amazing how technology just takes away all the fun of being a human, and then they try to be a human, and then they tell you we can be a human better than you can, and of course we'll tell you how to live your life. I guess you don't want to get me started on that. One of the reasons I just left the technology field is I did not want my skills, my talents, my abilities to be used in a way that I did not feel would benefit the whole of humanity. I said, if you're going to call it karma, you can call it that. But corporations hire people because the head of the Bezos of the world, they can't do what the people that they hire do. Always think about that. Sure, you're a great leader, but if you eliminate your competition, you can be king of the world and the top billionaire on the planet. You probably see further down in the news in an article about, I think, your money, your profit. I called it something. Your P&L matters. I'm gonna do some more with that, and I'm not a fan of either side. I just wanted to put it out there for you to see. Still want to give you another video that might make a smile to your face. Anyway, I divest. As you can easily see, we're putting on a high okay, in the E-mini and cash. And the Wyckoff wave, as you see the top arrow there, it's just rallying back to what we call a half back. Now let's give that some gravitas. Let's give that some definition. We see from the top, we'll say from 9:40 down to 10 o'clock. That is more of a major sign of weakness in a micro intraday perspective. So once you see that major sign of weakness, okay, in other words, I don't gamble, I don't play cards, but I'm told that people have tails. That's given you the tail for what the market had in mind. Now, once again, we're looking at the Wyckoff wave, and you'd be looking at the Dow futures, but that's still giving you a tail. So the most aggressive price behavior is to the downside. Now, Wyckoff didn't have bulls and bears, so the most aggressive price behavior is selling pressure. And that's telling you something. You have to look at those white balls up there, the first ball, second ball, third ball. The first two balls are within the opening balance. So chances are they were selling into that opening balance, into that opening run. In other words, they were checking the rally. But with algos, they can take that thing a lot higher than what we would normally want to be able to stomach. And that's why with their stops, you really have to say, oh, man, you got to be kidding me. It's going to happen. So what I'm saying is you have that major sign of weakness with the selling pressure pushing the market back down. You see the same thing with the Wyckoff wave. Below the opening first minute, opening print, and did the same thing. So then naturally it's going to rally. It's going to naturally be buoyant. But what you want to see is we have a major sign of weakness. So we want to see if there is a corresponding minor sign of strength. You understand? So then that's the point we'd want to be start to get short the market, is on the minor sign of strength, because that's just, you can look at it as late bulls to the party, but I really don't like to look at it that way. I look at that as to make sure, do they have more inventory they need to unload? Because within the time frame, I want to see if they can get it back to where those balls were the first point, and is there more inventory to unload the second point, and then are they going to arch it back over? That's going to tell you a lot. Now, you can easily see as we come off of that high, we'll talk the Wyckoff wave, the minor sign of strength, okay? Strength means a buying pressure. Weakness would be selling pressure in this particular perspective. You can easily see that up thrust from the Wyckoff wave, we'll say about 10-10. If you're looking at this, I'll give you the clarification. These are 1 minute bar chart, 1 minute line, what do you got? Yeah, 1 minute bar charts, but the lines you see are 10 minutes. And so we're looking in the center of the line for 5 minutes. So technically it's a 5 minute chart, okay? But it's a 5, it's a 10, and a 1 minute chart. And if you want to make it an hour chart, you can see the same thing. And that's the way Wyckoff talked about trading, because he had to hand draw those charts. And when the boys made their tape reading chart, obviously their grid lines were marked or locked in stone, but he really looked at the market in 10-minute charts, just to let you know. But he timed it out within 5 minutes, which is genius, absolute genius. So I'm looking at 10:15. That's how you would look at that. That would be the hour bar here. You can see the hour doesn't always ring through when I get past the lunch log. It goes up to 12 o'clock like that, though. So we're looking at 10 o'clock. That would be 10:10. In the middle of 10:10 and 10:20. So what? 10:15. So we're looking at 10:15. You can easily see the price is giving it up. Okay. So now you could get a natural rally as we see this next arrow that you're. Fortunately, this is not a video, it's audio, but you can still see that what's going on with the E-mini. Well, you can easily see the E-mini. That'd be the second. Well, the third arrow is now getting us an up thrust, okay, out of that potential distribution line, which I'll draw with just a line. You can easily see that. That's telling you that that'd be the place to get short. Now, obviously, in this particular chart, you see the red ball. Well, that's a lot of volume coming in, okay? That's program traders kicking in. And you can see now the Wyckoff wave is now mirroring what it did the previous wave. Once again, if you're looking at minutes, we're looking at, say, 15 minutes down and 5 minutes up. That's how you would look at that. 15 minutes down, 5 minutes up. Once again, a major sign of weakness as we test the current existing low of day. And then we have a minor sign of strength for 5 minutes. And then once again, once that starts to round over, then you can easily see that the cash itself is testing an upthrust from that distribution. You want to get short there. Now, it's not going to be a perfect day. You're not going to ride it all the way back down. You want to look to see, okay, is there going to be a potential for this thing to start checking the downward movement? And it somewhat starts a little bit later in the form of, say, 20 minutes later, we'll say. And once again, that's where the at 10:50, that's where the cash is then pulled back and, of course, checks that low. You get a bit of a rally, same thing. It's repeating itself, but now we got a couple of things going on. It's the same sign of weakness, major sign of weakness, minor sign of strength, pull back. Someone in here, you could potentially say that with preliminary support. Doesn't really make that big a difference, but you're just looking to see when the downside is going to get checked. It's going to get checked on volume. Okay, Berkshire Hathaway. The tell on that is you can easily see the Berkshire is pushing itself up, pretty much makes the high of what the Wyckoff wave was, say about 1040. Volume comes in, and we'll have to tweak that volume a little bit more for you, but volume comes in. But the main thing you want to take away with this chart simply is it's telling you the low. It's telling you the low where that potential movement down was going to potentially end. And as we say, everything is a potential until it's not. But you can easily see at 11:30, right where the peon closed, little volume comes in. Little volume in the form of 10 or 5 shares of a $266,000 security, but still yet, that's telling you something. And that's why I include that into the chart. Yes, some volume comes in and we climax that downside movement, selling climax, however you want to say it. But we climax it, and then easily it's that taken out of that supply. And that's really what you want to train your eye to do. Cash. You got to keep in mind how that last couple of 10 minutes traded from Monday's close. Somewhat nonsense is what it was. And from that standpoint, the glowbacks took it down lower, if you recall. I believe even on glowback.
That's good enough, Wyckoff. All right, so that should give you an idea of what's going on. I saw potential distribution. Glowback now is pushing about 3108. Everything can always go up higher. We talked about that some more. Algos had you in their sights. You'd have been right if you'd also been needed an 8-point stop, as we talked about. You were taken out just as you placed the trade. It's going to happen, so you can't get upset about it. If you looked at the Dow futures, I think it was like 810. I'll look at it real quick. No, it's 825. Just above 830. That's when you want to see if cash is giving you a lean. And the Dow, cash or the Dow futures, it really shows up very well in the Dow futures as far as the volume studies goes. You can easily see that price is moving up as volume is increasing. For whatever reason, they wanted to get on board. But some of the insiders get an opportunity to buy an hour before the market open, as you and I. So obviously they got their little shares on around 820, 830. And then I'll just call it out for you. If you look at the Dow futures, about 910, you saw a potential preliminary supply coming in. And that high push up, you've seen the same thing correspondingly on the E-mini. Just the future, the volume is really easily seen.
Then a pullback would be your preliminary supply back down, volume pulls back, really pulls back nicely, which would indicate that next potential move would be the final markup, as Wyckoff would say. And guess what? That potential selling climax came in about 935 and topped us right out at 940. But obviously 935 had the highest volume because that's pretty much the opening print. And then 940 would possibly giving you the effort versus result. Now, if you're looking at the Dow futures, is what I'm referring to. The volume does not pull back aggressively, but it pulls back somewhat moderately and concerningly, as once again, price made a higher high. And that's really how you want to look at it. You say, well, they just took my stop. It's going to do that if you lock it in tight. That's when you got to use some market judgment, price behavior, interaction of the price and the volume and the time. Do the math here. If we're looking about 825 all the way to 935 or 925, we're looking about an hour and 20 minutes that price has been ripping up with really no market open per se besides Globex. And then we come in and we top out at 940. This is on a 5-minute chart, of course. We top in at 940. This is on the Dow futures, but we're talking about 940 on the aggressive volume. At 930, obviously, it's all-time volume, and that's really what you want to look at. In theory, price should not go up any higher. How can I say this? On lesser volume because it's effort versus result. Okay? In other words, the effort is pulling back. It's waning from the result in price. And if you do look at the Dow futures, that's the YMU20, it looks like, you'll see that the volume was lower and price closed on the low of that bar. I'll pull the same thing up. I'm not certain if I got that on the, yeah, that's about the same. It's just really seen, and I guess you could see the same thing in the E-minis also. So on the volume standpoint on that particular thing, so that's what you want to look at. The volume on the bar on that next 5-minute bar really isn't that much on the low, so that gives you a read, okay. And that was the whole theme that the E-minis cash was trading more aggressively, and of course NASDAQ futures were too, than the Dow. And like I said, I used the Wyckoff wave. I've got a good institutional friend. He's into the Dow futures, so I told him I'd start following the Dow futures. We compare notes. All right. Same thing. I teach him Wyckoff. He teaches me how institutions trade. Symbiotic relationship. Inception at 30.99, all levels were taken out. And like I said, I can't help that. When I give these levels, it's about, I try to start it right at 8:30 New York time, simply because I need to get the opening print out by 8:40. Sometimes it's a little bit later, just because we're waiting on the news. Like I said, I still saw the shortening of the upward thrusts. You can read that 3094, 3108, 3111, and 3113, and then that final push up, at least to my eye, with a terminal up thrust. Now, I say that in jest because the terminal up thrust is really reserved for the daily. All right, YouTube, hopefully we're giving you some more. I apologize. I haven't been doing the videos every day. We'll probably make a couple of changes. It's a time constraint, and what really works best for the bigger picture and how we can give you the best value without, how can I say this, disrespecting any subscribers. Okay, give us a call, 1-888-WYCOFF, 1-888-WYCKOFF, or 1-888-992-5633, or drop us an email, feedback@wyckoffamtrader.com. Your feedback makes me better. I think it's about time to wrap this up. Check that out if you want to.
It's amazing when I talk to people how they don't want to really digest the differences between a billionaire's pay and just an average working Joe. If you get a chance, check out the Forbes link. And I've talked to a lot of people about this, and everyone thinks the younger men, they have a reason to protest and burn things down, which I don't agree. But everyone has their own opinion. You can read this as what it is. But what I'm saying is it's not hard to be the richest man when you take out all your competition, and you don't really think about that. But, Jeff employs 840,000 people. Payroll, average person makes about $35,000 a year. I know that because I talked to him. $1,750. Just makes $275 million in one day. And like I said, it breaks down 3,000 per second. Okay. 191 per minute. And the average working Joe barely makes $17.50 an hour. That's where the true inequality is. And I've talked about this for 10 years. Not the first thing. If you get a chance, check out this URL. It's quite interesting. Like I said, I got my check. No, I didn't put it in the bank. I'm so upset. I've got a debit card. I've got sign up with on the internet or possibly a phone. So anyway, still working on the website and the membership website. Let's wrap it up. I'm going to update this. You can see for yourself. What moves the market? This is the hardest thing to really wrap your head around and even master. And even Jesse Livermore was asked in an interview. He says, "Well, do you know everything you need to know about the market?" And Jesse Livermore says, "Every day the market teaches me something new." So hopefully, as a trader, we can take the same attitude as what in our vernacular, the 1930s best trader. He was probably the most scalper trader than anyone, which you would have to read the literature. The number one mistake most traders make is to step back and wait for the market to prove them right, when they should be ready, willing, and able to let the market prove them wrong. The qualities essential to the equipment of a speculator, trader, investor are judgment, self-reliance, courage, prudence, and pliability. And these should be added to quality and patience. In brief, rigid self-control is half the battle. You must train yourself to act upon your decisions and to carry them to a successful conclusion. Operate with no emotions. Be indifferent to each trade's outcome. Be willing to let the market prove you wrong. And with that, as always, be nimble and be quick. Don't let the market make you sick.